If you're one of those people who love feeling so terrified you can't sleep, who feel like you're bringing it on yourself, then you're in the right place. Horror isn't just bloody scenes or scary sounds. It's a state of tension or waiting or fear that takes control of you and your mind and makes you feel terrified, wondering what's coming next. Let me tell you about the best 10 horror movies you'll ever watch in your life. Real horror movies. Psychological horror that will terrify you and keep you from sleeping at night. So make sure you've turned off the lights and let's start. In 10th place, we have the movie Paranormal Activity, the movie that changed the game for all horror movies. It relies on the found footage idea, meaning the shots are filmed as if they're real footage from people this actually happened to, making the events look completely natural, as if the situations happening in the movie all really happened and could happen to any one of us. The movie is about a couple who move into a new house and start noticing strange things happening at night, so they decide to film it. Everything happens slowly, but you genuinely feel like it's real. The longer the movie goes on, the more the horror builds, gradually. Its success led to a huge long series, many movies made in the same genre, each one relying on the same idea, but with a different story. Movie number 9. You might ask about The Lighthouse if you love psychological horror and want to know more about the human psyche, a movie that keeps you hooked on everything you're watching. Directed by Robert Eggers, it tells the story of two lighthouse keepers, alone in a very remote place. One, old in the profession, played by Willem Dafoe, the other, new to the job, played by Robert Pattinson. They get trapped on an isolated island, cut off from anyone because of a storm that drags on for a long time. They start to feel lonely, isolated from everyone, and one by one, they begin to lose their minds. They go insane. Strange things start happening to them. They start behaving in very strange ways, and the movie turns everything completely upside down. You genuinely don't even understand anymore whether what you're watching is real or just illusions they're imagining. The movie was shot in black and white, released in 2019, but that creates a gloomy, strange atmosphere. It makes you feel a strange psychological pressure. The performances are incredible, and the movie is genuinely terrifying. This isn't just a horror movie, it takes you inside the minds of two insane men. Movie number 8, Hereditary. Honestly, I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of the movies that broke away from the traditional horror atmosphere. Like the rest of the movies on this list, it relies heavily on psychological horror, but this one is different because very strange things happen in it, and at the same time, it creates a strange tension in your body that you feel the whole time you're watching, until finally, a real catastrophe happens at the end. It's about a family facing dark things, strange images connected to their past. Over time, things take a turn, and very, very terrifying things happen. Honestly, there are real shocks inside this movie. Halfway through, you don't even understand what you're watching anymore. It's full of symbols and hidden meaning. It's written and directed by Ari Aster, one of the new directors making great, distinctive horror films, like this one and his other movie, Midsummer, also a very strange horror movie. He generally makes strange horror movies. His horror isn't just in the visuals, it's in the overall atmosphere, which makes you feel completely unsettled the whole time. It's genuinely a great movie. Go watch it. Movie number 7, The Conjuring. Considered one of the most famous horror movies, actually based on real events from the case files of investigators who worked on cases involving demons and ghosts. Ed and Lorraine Warren. It tells the story of a family that moves into an old farmhouse with barely any neighbors around. Strange, bizarre things start happening, terrifying events. But this isn't just an ordinary horror movie with a few scary movie. It's based on a true story, and its horror builds gradually, relying on atmosphere and overall dread. It makes your heart feel like it could stop at any moment. Every detail is calculated to build an incredible horror atmosphere. It's part of the larger Conjuring series. Annabelle also appears in it, one of the most famous and terrifying characters in the entire history of cinema.
Movie number 6, classified as one of the strangest, most terrifying movies in the history of cinema, because it's based on a true story. 3 students from America disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and they filmed a terrifying documentary. The strange thing is that all the footage was filmed by the students themselves with an amateur camera. You can hear their fear, the terror they experienced during their trip. The footage was found while people were searching for these students. They never found the students, only this footage. This is a picture of the 3 who disappeared, and to this day, they've never been found. In 5th place, The Mist. If you love horror that plays on collective psychological fear, based on a novel by Stephen King, considered the best horror writer in the world, a movie you must watch because it's incredible. The story begins when a huge, strange fog cloud starts covering a small town, but this fog wasn't ordinary. Inside it were very strange creatures, terrifying ones, killing anyone who who entered. All the town's residents gather in a small supermarket. Anyone who leaves gets killed instantly. But what happens inside that small building is the real horror. And sometimes it's worse than what's happening outside. The movie really asks what humans might do when they're afraid of the unknown. They don't know what's inside the fog, but they're terrified, so they start turning on each other. You'll find people inside the supermarket starting to worship it or doing very strange things because they don't know what's inside the fog. They become a small society, and that society starts to collapse from the horror they feel. It's considered to have the most shocking ending in the history of movies. A terrifying ending. A shocking ending you could never expect.
In fourth place,
Get Out. One of the modern horror movies you could say isn't just a traditional one. Directed and written by Jordan Peele, who has given us several great new horror films. In Get Out, he blends psychological horror with social issues, trying to talk about racism, but in a terrifying way. The story follows a young black man who goes to visit his white girlfriend's family for the first time, spending a few days with them. But as time passes, he starts to discover something unnatural happening. This family isn't ordinary. Behind them are very strange, terrifying things they're doing. So the horror in Get Out doesn't just come from scary moments. It comes from the tension built from the very start and from the idea it's exploring: racism against black people in American society. Jordan Peele also loves planting hints you'd only catch after watching several times. This movie was a huge success, one of the few that blended horror with deep social issues. In third place, The Thing, directed by John Carpenter, one of the greatest science fiction movies you'll ever watch. Even though it's quite old, it genuinely shocked me with how brilliant it is. The story follows a group of scientists at a research station in Antarctica. Suddenly, they find an alien creature capable of absorbing the shape of any living thing and transforming into it. This creates an unnatural horror and tension between the characters, because any one of them could suddenly be the one killing the others, one by one, and taking their shape. So, what adds to the horror is that you don't know which character the alien has already killed and replaced. Made in 1982, its visual effects were, at the time, genuinely brilliant. Watching it, you won't feel like it's old at all. In fact, it holds up better than a lot of movies made today. To this day, the transformation scenes still make people feel terrified. The Thing isn't just a horror movie, it's a test of trust between humans and what happens when they start to fear the unknown. In second place, The Others, the most creative horror movie you'll ever watch. I never imagined a ghost story could be this creative, with a completely unexpected ending. Written and directed by Alejandro Amenabar, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The story takes place during World War II, far from the war itself, on a British island where a mother lives in a mansion with her two young children. The events begin when three people show up at the door. A maid, a nanny, and a gardener come to work at the mansion. From here, strange, mysterious, terrifying events start happening. They start to sense there are ghosts in this big house. The movie might be a little slow to start, but it relies heavily on mystery, and its ending is incredibly brilliant. Like I said, I'd never seen a ghost story this creative. It's really special. Go watch it. Now, in first place, The Shining. Made in 1980, directed by the genius Stanley Kubrick, written by the genius Stephen King. It follows a writer named Jack who decides to take his family to an isolated hotel to work as caretaker through the winter. But this hotel holds strange, bizarre secrets, mysterious ones, that begin to affect him and his actions. Strange things start happening to him. Little by little, he loses his mind completely, and after that, the real horror begins. Jack Nicholson's performance was terrifying, and his legendary scene from The Shining has become one of the most famous scenes in the entire history of cinema. The movie dives into the human psyche, into psychological fear. It isn't just horror and scenes. No, it's full of psychological horror and fear like that. And that's it. Our channel's best horror movies, ones that shape the world of cinema, some of the best you'll ever watch. I try to cover a range, from psychological horror to sci-fi to stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Laristi here. Peace.